Our next type of variation is a combined variation. And in a combined variation, you should anticipate seeing both a direct variation and an inverse variation described in the question. So in this question, for our evaluation of body mass index, or BMI, we have that the BMI varies directly with the height, but inversely, directly as the weight, but inversely as the square of the height. If we just had a direct variation with the weight, our BMI would look like this. But since we also need to include an inverse variation with the height, we need to include h squared as part of the denominator. So the W in the numerator covers the direct variation part. The h squared in the denominator covers the inverse variation. And since it's the square of the height, we make sure we include h squared. Just as we did with direct and inverse variations when they were by themselves, we use the information that we're provided to write out as much of the equation as we can, ideally determining k. Because b, BMI's variable, is now dependent on two other variables, we need to make sure we include all of that information. So looking at the question one more time, we have that a body mass index of 35 15/100ths, right here, is associated with a weight of 180 pounds and someone who is 5 feet tall. Now, one other little part of the question you might notice is that the height will be expressed in inches. So that 5-foot person is really 60 inches tall. Subbing in all of those numbers. We don't know what k is just yet. Ideally, we're going to be figuring it out very soon. We have a weight of 180 and a height of 60, but squared. Multiplying out the denominator, 35 15/100ths, 180k over 3,600. 180 over 3,600 is just 5/100ths. So 35 15/100ths divided by 5/100ths is going to leave us with a value for k of 703. That's the value we will use when we rewrite our BMI formula, this time with a weight and a height, but knowing that k is 703. On the second go round for BMI, we have two new heights and weights. We've got a new weight of 170 and a new height of 5 feet 10. Recall that 5 feet is 60 inches, so 5 feet 10 would be 70 inches. We'll use both of those numbers as our weight and our height. And the nice thing about these questions, as you saw when we did direct and inverse variations, is that the second time around, it's just a multiplication or a division. In this case, it has both. The whole idea is that the only variable standing on the second time around should be b. The first time around, it's going to be k. The second time around, it's going to be b, because you're figuring out for this problem a new body mass index for a new weight and a new height. But now you know what k is. So if I multiply out 703 times 170, 70 squared, you can check the math on this, but you end up with a body mass index of 24.4. Same thing happened for combined variation that we did for inverse and joint. Inverse and direct. Joint is next. We use the information that we know. We figured out what k was, and then we use that k to determine a subsequent body mass index, substituting each one of the variables along the way in the correct location.